A warm welcome from Amsterdam, and thanks for tuning in to a new episode of Game Consultant. Your host of today is Reinout.
Hey, listen.
Yeah.
About registrations, huh?
Yes.
How many do you think you're getting? Is that a registration?
Oh, actually, yes, it is.
Yeah.
So they are coming in.
Yeah.
Oh, how convenient. That sounded good, right? That's music to my ears. Every time I hear that, I say, Skål.
It is Wednesday, May the 6th. Welcome to Game Consultant. And today we have a full program. First of all, as you could hear, Nordic is getting registrations in. They are happy people. Nordic Game, it's an event May 27th, 28th, and 29th. Great nominees, etc., etc. I'm talking to Jacob. Jacob giving an update about what's happening. I can tell you, he's going through memory lanes. Jacob. Anyways, Hendrik also is telling us more about European Games BizDev Gathering. It's a 2-day long event. It's focused on supporting European game developers during these very, very challenging times. Already 300 plus registered companies. And so you can do the online pitching, meetings, so much more. So he's telling about that. In the meantime, I also have Ian Scarf. He's telling more about a European Union starts a venture capital program, Horizon 2020. Obviously there is a lack of venture capital in Europe. In fact, there is a lack of investments in Europe that focuses on smaller companies, early stage and projects. Let me see what I have more. I have Xsolla. I'm talking to their chief investment officer, Dmitry. He's telling a lot about Xsolla. And as they call themselves, they are the video games business engine of the games industry. And do we have more? Yes, Chris, obviously with Read Things, all about esports. And so let's get it started. So first, a last minute item I actually got. It was an email from Edmar Mendisabal, and I hope I say it well, Edmar. I'm being challenged lately with the names. He sends me an email. He asks me if I'm doing well. Well, thank you. I'm doing well. And he was wondering if I would be interested or attending a free game industry Twitch event. And because of the COVID-19, all the recruiting events for graduating game developers have been cancelled. So he has volunteered to help to produce a Twitch show this upcoming Friday, which is the 8th of May, hosted by NVIDIA's Julian Hoguet, if I'm saying the name right again, but I'll have the link on my blog and description, to help these game developers show and tell their final game projects and connect them with industry professionals and recruiters. Julian will play 8 games, including 2 VR titles, and interview the teams. Some teams are looking for a publisher too. So if you're a game publisher, hey, who knows? The games have been developed by groups of 12 for 1 year, 31 programmers, 25 artists, 39 designers, and 17 producers. So I have a link to the Eventbrite page. So it tells me a little bit more. It's May 8th, and it starts actually 8:30 on the Friday, the 8th. Can I tell a little bit more? No, the link is actually on my site, so you can find it. I did check Julian. And it says something about the web series host for NVIDIA GeForce, host of the PC gaming YouTube channel NVIDIA GeForce. From its launch to today, it now boasts over 500,000 subscribers who tune in and watch in-depth discussions of cutting-edge computer hardware and graphic rendering technologies. So Julian knows what he's talking about. So I said a last minute item that I love to do. So if you're actually interested and you have some time, do me a favor and check out the Eventbrite page on my blog. All right, Edmar? As promised. Let's continue. As I promised, updates about Nordic Game. Nordic, May 27th to 26th. And I was trying to reach Jacob yesterday, but not so responsive because he was going through memory lane and creating a video. Right?
Yeah, that is so true. Right now, yeah. First of all, we are working as mad people to achieve what we want with the Nordic Game Conference. It's in 22 days now. And everything is on rails. You can see that our ticket sales are rising. Everything is heading towards this end goal, which is the kickoff of the conference. But it also means that there's tons of work to do. And for me, yesterday, I'm in charge of the Nordic Game Awards as well as all the other stuff I do. And the Nordic Game Awards is kind of a peculiar thing because it's the only award I think I'm aware of in the world that is actually restricted but united in a weird sense, that it's only the Nordic games created in the Nordic countries that are awarded, but it's not national, it's regional. So it's what is left of the old Nordic game program that actually started as a attempt to unite the Nordic countries and their game developers. So I'm quite proud of that. And then I started creating the videos for the nominees and the intro for the show. It's gonna be a live show on stage on 28th of May.
Yeah,
6:00 in the evening. We have we're going to run it from our home built studio in Malmo. And we're gonna have a really nice host. I cannot reveal it yet, but I can say that she is really good at what she does. And it's gonna be a celebration because 2019 was quite a year for games development in the Nordic countries.
Yeah.
So
cool.
I was sitting there, and then I thought, okay, a nice kind of intro for that, because we might have a lot of new people among our audience now that we are going online. So it might be like a good idea to do the intro of the awards, like a recap of the winners from the very beginning when we did the first one in 2007. And then I started looking at all these games that have been winning up until now, and I got lost in time there. I just wanted to go back and play them all and to read about them all. And what happened to that studio that made that game back then in that many years ago in 2008, you know?
Yeah.
So that was an amazing journey, but I kind of got stuck in a time loop there.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I mean, for a lot of people, the Nordic is the region where... Yeah, well, I was reading an article. The Constructor of Fun was looking at 10 years of Supercell. And although 3 years of declining revenues, there is so much potential there. And so they basically went through the whole company, what the focus for the near future and the long future should be. But yeah, Supercell is one of those unicorns that came forward. I mean, you have so many fingers, Software OVO, Mac, Next Games. I'm forgetting something. Whoever I'm forgetting, sorry. But yeah, I mean, so that alone is already attractive for a lot of people just to register and watch to some people. Well, first of all, the live social distancing opening, and then obviously also the announcements of the awards, but also something about panels. Are we able to say something about panels? People that are going to talk about certain things, or do we hold that for Sunday?
No, I mean we can hold it a little bit, but I would love it to relate to this talk we have right now about the awards, because I've tried really hard to make as a coherent program as possible for the live stream, And so there will be a lot of talks from the nominated games for the awards, because it's a logical thing. I think that if you've really achieved a game that has been accoladed like this and been nominated, then you must have done something right.
Yeah, I want to hear it. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So I've convinced a lot of the nominated games to actually, or the developers obviously, to come to NG20 or sit at home and do it remotely, but to give talks about the games. So I could just mention, a couple of them will be one of the Nordic Game of the Year nominees is Baba Is You. It's a Finnish game by Hempeli. Really, really amazing game, I think. They will be coming and giving a talk about how they came up with that weird idea. Then we have Lego, the iPad game called Lego Builder's Journey.
Yeah.
Actually, one of the best takes on the Lego franchise so far, in terms of actually building with bricks in another setting that you're used to physically. So it's kind of a puzzle layer on top of building with the bricks, which I really like. So I also convinced the CEO of that Danish studio to give a talk just about that, how it is to work with the franchise and so forth.
Yeah.
Then obviously also one of the big winners there was just a local in Denmark, the Danish Game Award. And the game What the Golf. Have you tried that?
Yeah, no. I mean, I've heard about golfing games, and I tried once. Yeah, I should. Yeah.
But What the Golf is a very different.
What the fuck?
Golf
What the golf?
Because you're not only shooting a ball into the hole. You are shooting all kinds of weird stuff, even yourself. So it's kind of a comedic. A comedy game, a comedy golf game on iPad, and I had great fun with it. Anyways, it won a lot of awards at the Danish Game Awards, and so it's also nominated for the Nordic Game Awards. And the CEO Tim Gaubers is also coming to the live stream channel to talk about how you infuse comedy into your game and how difficult and challenging it actually is to make people laugh while playing.
Cool. So that was Jacob with the update of Nordic Game. Nordic Game is an online event, May 27th, 28th, and 29th. I have the link to the website and registration page in the description and on the blog. So there you go. Next in line, Hendrik. Hendrik is going to tell us more about the European Games BizDev Gathering. That should be exciting. Today I have Hendrik Lesser. Hendrik is very familiar with the gaming space, and the gaming space is familiar with him. And he came on a brilliant idea. The European Games BizDev Gathering. And it's a 2-day long event. It's an online event, as you might imagine. I was just discussing with him that we might actually see some things opening, but not big events. So happy to see that he's doing it online. 300 plus people or companies did already register. That is an awesome number. So May 13th and 14th, it's the European Games BizDev Gathering. Hendrik, hello.
Hello. All right.
First of all, can you quickly say what you do right now? Because you have this very interesting title on LinkedIn.
You mean the boss mob, I guess. So it kind of reflects of who I am. So it's like I'm a hardcore gamer since I was 4 years old. So gaming influenced who I am as a person and who I am as an entrepreneur. So I thought the title boss mob makes most sense. Yeah. For some of you familiar with the RCP family, we are basically a group of companies under this, what we call the mothership of RCP. So boss mob makes more sense because there's also other kind of mobs in the system. And I do run this company now for 15 years. Founded it in the basement. So it's kind of a classic from really, the cliches in gaming to now more than 10 studios, a publishing unit, a gamification agency, a marketing agency, and so on through various countries in Europe.
Yeah. And one day you woke up and you thought like, okay, I'm not having a full schedule yet. I'm doing an event.
Yes, that basically happened when I also thought about some of my other duties. On the one hand side, obviously with the business side, gaming is doing well so far, at least most of us in the core of the industry as a development and publishing. But what about the day after tomorrow? When we really start to miss out on those GDC meetings and so on. So this was born out of a necessity for our own companies. And then I looked at my other self, which is also a political one. So one of the roles I have in politics is being the president of the EGDF. That's the European Game Developer Federation, primarily representing game development studios, but also lots of publishers, self-publishing developers, and so on a European scale. And I thought, why not bring those together and make an event to offer it to way more people. And this is where the idea for EGBG was born. Yeah,
May 13th to 14th. Register at egbg.eu. Obviously, I have the link in my description and blog. Anything you want to mention to game developers, why they should register and what they can expect?
Sure. It is a BizDev only event. So imagine every meeting you schedule with a publisher in the system as a pitch event. It's 30 minutes each. What you make out of it is up to you. How many meetings you get is based on the profile you have in the system. So make sure that this looks nice, that you are clear on what you're looking for and what you offer. Yeah. And it's important, it's only for European developers because it's hosted by the EGDF. And we came up with this a couple of weeks ago, so we decided to focus. If you're a European game development studio, you can now meet up 80 publishers, which we are incredibly proud of to have. It's ranging from the PlayStation, Xboxes to Ubisoft, EA, but also a lot of the smaller ones, the more niche ones, basically more or less everybody you can think of. And I think now 25 different investment companies. Yep. And the rest is development studios, obviously. I think we reached 350 attendees today. Cool. So let's see how many meetings in the end are happening, but we are very happy with how's it going so far.
Perfect. So in 1.5 weeks, am I saying that correctly? On Sunday, it's Mother's Day. That's the 10th. I don't forget. And then, so it's in 1.5 weeks. Yeah.
Yes, Wednesday, Thursday. Yep. It starts early at 9 and goes to 9 to also reflect the different time zones. So we have participants on the publishing investment side, which are either very much in the West or very much in the East. So we try to accommodate that through the 9 to 9 timings.
Cool. All right. I want to thank you for this. One more question. You do it now once. Knowing you might actually do it more often or next year or...
Yeah, but that's not decided yet. One of the first things was, since we kind of ruled out service providers for this one, as I said, to keep the focus. Yeah. Obviously, we're thinking about maybe also doing something for them because they're part of the industry too. Yeah. So that's an idea. Potentially doing this down the road again is an opportunity, potentially. But to be honest, this was born out of necessity and a crisis.
Exactly.
Let's see how that evolves, and then we will see what's happening because RCP in that matter as the driving force. We don't consider us too much as an event organizer, so let's see what happens. But EGDF is definitely pushing this further because most of you would have not known what EGDF is so far. It's a very abstract in Brussels lobbying, so it's great and a great opportunity to do something tangible for the industry and also come a little bit out into the light that people understand the work we're doing in Brussels.
Cool. Yeah, I just had Ian Scarf interview. There's a new fund, 80 billion, but also could be used by gaming companies. So it's an item that is after your interview. So, but I'll send you a link. Maybe it's interesting.
Sure. Cool. Thank you very much.
You too.
And thank you, Reinhard, for the little discussion and the chance to promote the event even further and get it out there, because it's really in the end for developers.
Yeah.
And I hope some of you hear this and jump on board still and participate.
I will push it a bit further. Thank you very much. Have
Thank
a
you,
nice
man.
day. You too. Bye-bye.
You too. Bye. Ciao.
Thanks, Hendrik, for explaining about your event. And as said, you can actually check it out. The European Games BizDev Gathering. It's May the 13th and the 14th. So when you're listening to this, it's in a week's time. And you go to register to egbg.eu. And I have the link also on the website, in the blog, and in the description. So do register. COVID-19 and the gaming industry. It's challenging times. And I got in contact with Ian Scarf, and he was explaining me that Horizon 2020 is the biggest European Union research and innovation program ever, with nearly 80 billion of funding available. And also gaming companies could apply. They're also looking at blockchain companies. Sort of grant funding up to 2.5 million. If you then want to have equity, that goes up to 50 million. I felt it was a good time to actually get a chat with Ian and let him explain how it works. In the blog and in the description, I'll have his LinkedIn and his email address so you can contact him. I advise you to always use someone that is experienced to do all the paperwork. It's a small fee, but you know what? The chances of getting approved are so much bigger. So let's listen to Ian. Today, during COVID-19, a lot of gaming companies obviously deal with financial crisis. We've heard and talked to a few. Hey, but this might be a solution. I got informed about Ian Scarf, and he's actually very, very well informed about European money. He's an independent expert at the European Commission. So today I have him in the episodes of Finance and Games, and I was wondering, Ian, hello, can you tell us a bit more? I mean, it sounds really good if this was something that gaming companies could benefit from, right?
Yes, that's right. Yeah. So basically, the fund, it's part of the European Union Horizons, and it's a fund set up for, including gaming companies. It's a fund set up to support startups, projects, excuse me, and SMEs within Europe, and also in the UK. The UK can only apply for the first round of funding, but any other companies, including gaming ones within Europe and 17 other countries, can apply for the funding. The first round, let's say, it's from 500,000 euro up to 2.5 million euro as a seed round, we call it, or a gift. You don't have to repay that money. It's a non-refundable grant, and like I said, gaming companies can apply. And then there's a further 15 million equity investment for each company if they want to take that. If they don't, then it's up to them. Yeah. What I've done is I've partnered with my colleague in Switzerland, who's an EU grant expert, and he will do a free evaluation on each company to see if he thinks it might be suitable for the funding. And then if you get the green light from him, then we can proceed and we can help companies with that funding. They have to prepare a business plan, and there's documents for the EU. So it's an EU funding business plan, a financial plan, a special EU pitch, and then we can help them with all that. There's a small fee, but we can help them with all that, and then we submit the application on their behalf. We register their company with the EU funding database, and then we work with them to gain the funding. We of course take a small success fee. Yeah. But generally that's it. I mean, I can help them as well. I've worked with a lot of gaming companies as part of my own incubator here in Europe. So I can help them as an advisor or consultant as well afterwards. We are very busy at the moment, as you said before, with the coronavirus and things like that. But yeah, I would, and it's not a secret fund. It's available for anyone.
No.
It's a part of the EU. So if they don't want our help or our expertise, then they could just go themselves to the EU. I mean, this is what we specialize in, so we can help them, and that's what we do very well.
Yeah.
But generally, that's it.
Yeah, it's the Horizon 220, which is called the big European Union Research Innovation Program. That's a mouthful, 80 billion. But my advice is, it's quite some documents that you need to prep. And I always say, if you have someone that can help you, that has gone through all that processing of documents, which you have, then it's worthwhile. So thank you very much, Ian. What I'll do is I'll put a link, the PDF that you sent to me, and also your LinkedIn and directly your Calendly link, so that people can basically schedule calls with you, 10 minutes, basically get a catch up. And if they are interested and you are interested, that you guys can go for it.
You could also include my email address there. They might want to just send me an email first, and I can have a look at things. Yeah, there's a lot of information on my LinkedIn profile as well, that they can see links to the articles and things like that. So that would be great. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, you too. And keep us posted if anything comes by that is adjusted or whatsoever. But up till now, thank you very much for creating the time, and talk to you soon.
Lovely. Thank you very much.
You too. Bye, Ian.
Bye.
So last week, Chris did actually send his item, but it got stuck in his outbox. So today we're going to broadcast it as it was Sunday. Read Things. It's an interesting item, and it's all about esports and a level up experience. That's where you can find Chris Reed on LinkedIn. Chris without the H, so ChrisReed. Chris Reed, the level up experience. So guys, listen up. Chris, come on in.
Hey guys, welcome back to another Read Things. Hope everyone's staying safe and staying healthy. Another interesting week in esports. I want to get right to this. So I want to start with an article from the Esports Observer. This is by Tobias Sek. And it's titled Q1 2020's Most Impactful PC Games, COVID-19 Policies, Off-Season, and a Rising Star. This is a PC Games Impact Index of the first quarter most relevant PC games. And basically what happens is they have an index score for 15 titles. And I'm going to go through the top 5 real quick. Number 1 is, to no surprise, League of Legends at 71. Number 2, CSGO at 59. 3, Dota 2, 42. 4, Rainbow Six Siege, jumping 4 spots to 42, and Fortnite at number 5 at 23. There is a title that's not in the top 5, which we'll talk about in just a second in more detail here. But so there's key indicators that they put together here to put this index together. So the first of the 6 is monthly active PC players at a 30% weight, distributed winnings at 25%, esports hours watched at 20%, hours watched at 15%, concurrent streams at 5%, and number of tournaments at 5%. Just real quick thoughts. I mean, obviously, League being number 1, that's to no one's surprise, or CSGO being number 2, Dota 2 being tier 1. Obviously, there's no surprise. But Rainbow Six Siege popping up to be in tier 1 for the first time. It was really interesting. Obviously, a lot of the viewership was really skyrocketed since Q3, Q4 last year. So there's been just a lot of hype around it, a lot of content being produced around it. Just I've kind of noticed that. So that's awesome for Rainbow Six Siege for that pop into the first time in tier 1. But I really want to skip down. I want to skip down to the title came in at 7. And first, let me just say this: I'm not trying to throw shade at certain titles. Or certain esports, right? I'm not trying to do that. I may come off that way, and I apologize if I do. Let's just get into this. So at 13, it's Overwatch, and they dropped 3 spots. And now based on this index. And look, this is just one quarter. It's one index. This isn't the end all be all for everything. But Overwatch comes in with an index score of 7. And League had a 71 rating, and then CSGO 59, and Dota 2 42, Rainbow Six Siege 42, right? And here's Overwatch at 7. And the reason why am I bringing this up? Well, there's something called the Overwatch League. If you follow esports at all, you understand that has been out the third season, and the millions upon millions of dollars that's being pumped into this league, and for Overwatch to be 13th on this index, and for it to not be a tier 1 esport, it seems pretty baffling. And to anyone if you're looking on the outside, if you don't follow, you're like, okay, wait a minute. There is a league with millions upon millions of dollars being invested in it, sponsors investing millions of dollars into it, and it's not a tier 1 esport. Like, there should be a big question mark there. And it has not been good from the news side of things of what's happening with the league as well. So this week there was significant news, in my opinion. And look, I don't think it's getting enough press. I don't think it's being talked about enough. Again, let me say, I'm not trying to, say, I'm just Overwatch needs to be destroyed and all this. Overwatch, here's the thing. If the Overwatch League fails, that is not a good thing for the industry. I think most people would understand that, right? And there would be some short-term ramifications. Sponsors getting burned, right? Because of what's happened to the league that they're pumping money into, right? And so there would be, I think, a short-term pullback into other metrics for other leagues and things like that. But it could provide opportunity, which I could be here forever talking about that if you're looking from the investing side of and sponsors are getting involved in things like that, and investors on the outside. But for right now, the MVP of Overwatch has left. That's what I wanted to talk about. And this is from Esports, from Aaron Alford. Why Sinatra's departure is bad news for Overwatch League. Overwatch League players are losing their passion for the game is the subtitle. And Sinatra is leaving for Valorant, so the new FPS from Riot coming out, and it's a game that's just in beta. Which I'll get that in just a second, but this is just incredible. I mean, here's the thing: it's similar to, and I know it's not the same. People are going to get mad at me, but it's like Patrick Mahomes leaving the NFL at the top of his game, saying, "Okay, I'm out," and leaving the league. That's what it's like. So Sinatra was already, this is from Esports, but he was already the league MVP, 2019 World Cup champion, and Overwatch League Grand Finals champion. So someone at the top of their game, at the top of the league, everything going right for them, and then saying, okay, I'm out. There is a huge problem with that. There's a huge problem with that. When there's a shift like that, and going to Valorant, which we talked about obviously the last couple weeks, some of the metrics side of things of what's happened, it's in beta. It's a game in beta. And so the layer of risk, when you look at kind of a risk assessment of this, so you're leaving the league at the very top, right? You're the MVP of the league, and then you're going to go into a title, into an esport that is in beta, that hasn't been established yet, right? So you're going to take that extra risk, all that layer of risk, instead of staying in the Overwatch League. So for me, that shows that there are significant issues that actually aren't even being, mentioned at a scale that it should be, in my opinion. So look, I mean, that was significant. You've had other things coming out about mental health around the players. The players have come out and said that about burnout, which, look, in business, we all can face burnout, obviously. And it's a mental health, obviously, it crosses all industries. And then to add to this, this came out yesterday, and this is from the Esports Observer. This is from Esports. But Toronto Defiant support Kellex retires from professional Overwatch. And in the statement on Twitter, he came out and said, after discussing this with my family and closest friends, I know I've made the right decision for myself. It feels like this great weight has been lifted off my shoulders. So look, again, I think obviously people in the industry, not a popular opinion, but if potentially one of these leagues fail, if the Overwatch League fails, there's significant ramifications on the backside of that in the shorter term. Now, longer term, like a decade plus, I think that it would look a potential like a blip, right, in the industry. But there's significant ramifications if a league fails. And what happens is, it's just like in public markets when C-levels start leaving a company. The canary in the coal mine effect, right? The cascading effect of one event, one thing leads to another. Obviously this is just not good. And I don't think there's enough people talking about it, I guess, on the potential negative effects of it. But I think that, unless something changes, something in motion stays in motion. So unless something changes, I think just the negative trajectory will continue. So if you come from like the public markets, you can kind of see Overwatch and some of these titles as stocks. So each title, esports title, it can be a stock, right? And obviously Overwatch has been in the decline for a while. And everyone's saying like the answer to it, it's Overwatch 2. Well, Overwatch 2 isn't going to be coming out anytime soon. And then what happens between now and then? Like, what is going to be the pivot? Like, what's going to happen that's going to change, all the issues with it? And then Valorant just, the saying out there, and I didn't make this up, obviously, it's been around for a long time, but, the mantra is Overwatch has killed Overwatch. Valorant hasn't killed Overwatch. Valorant is, an option to go to now, right? And then you have Riot, who obviously knows exactly what they're doing when it comes to what they've done with League over the years. So you have that support. And so it's something I wanted to talk about. I think that there's a lot of different layers to it. And so we're just going to have to see what happens to the League, the changes that they're going to make. And I think that's something that everyone really needs to watch and pay attention to. So hopefully you enjoyed this session. A little bit different, not just, definitely just kind of diving into more deeper when it comes to leagues. And the one thing so let me just throw this out there as well, is that as an investor, you look at volatility. And, I was thinking about this the other day, and that you look at investing in a team. And if you had to put like a beta on it, so those other markets, so if you put a beta on it, so 1.0 is the S&P 500, what is the beta of a team, of an esports team? Who knows? I don't know. Is it 3x, 4x, 5x the beta of S&P 500? I have no idea what the volatility, metric attached to it would be. But you can just see just how volatile it can be, and how things can shift very quickly, with player movement in the meta of the game and the community and stuff like that. So, obviously investors on the sidelines, they're looking at that. They're looking at the nuances and getting themselves educated around that before, putting capital to work. So I don't know. There's just so many different aspects to all this. It's really interesting to me. And, for me, the other thing about me as well is that, I'm from outside of Louisville. And one of the things here, this is a horse racing country. And look, I don't have a horse in this race. I can be completely objective here. I don't have a horse in this race. For those that may know me, I'm more involved on the tech side of esports and gaming, tech infrastructure companies. That for me, I think longer term, like the tech infrastructure needs to be there, right? That's even more, I guess, macro, more consistent, right, than potentially an individual team. So that could take forever to talk about. But so, not having a horse in the race a lot of times can give you perspective. So that's what I'm going to try to bring when it comes to looking at the teams, looking at just the different titles and how all that landscape kind of comes together. So hopefully you find value in this. Thank you so much for listening. Ryan, thank you for the opportunity to do this, and we'll see you on the next one.
Thank you, Chris. Good item. As said, the level of experience on LinkedIn. Do check him out. We're going to Dmitry Burkovskiy, and we'll talk about Xsolla. Xsolla is a company that is around the block already for a long time, but it keeps on reinventing themselves. As they call it right now, Xsolla is the video game business engine. Their set of solutions will help you to improve operations and sell more. Well, that sounds like music in many, many game developers' ears, right? Today, I put a company in a spotlight, and the company name is Xsolla. And actually, Justin Beerbaum, he put something online, and he says, a Game Developers Carnival. So if you expect a party, well, it's a fully virtual gaming industry event. And actually, the event is actually coming up in May, May 11th and 12th. But Dmitry, who I just got on the phone, he's basically saying, yeah, guys, you're too late. Full is full, but hey, there might be another one. First of all, the introduction, Dmitry Burkovskiy. And we discussed it. I came close. So welcome, Dmitry. And I say the name right, correct?
Yep, absolutely. It's really hard to pronounce this right. As I said, it's a Polish name coming from my grandfather. I'm from Russia, so it's all mixed up.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
I'm really happy to be at your podcast.
You just said you haven't updated your LinkedIn, but I happen to know you're Chief Investment Officer. And what a lot of people maybe don't know is that the company has also an investment firm or a fund, which we're also going to talk about. But first, since the spotlight is on Xsolla, what should we know about Xsolla? I mean, when did it start and where are you guys? And yeah, be as thorough as you can be.
Yep. Okay, thank you. So it's always hard to define what we do when we do a lot of different things, right? So we came with the descriptions not so long ago, so that Xsolla is a video game business engine, and that business engine run on a set of tools, products, and solutions that help game developers, publishers, and even platforms to operate and sell more games globally. And these tools helps to solve complex problems of distribution, marketing, monetization. We will focus on direct-to-consumer approach. So game developers, publishers, and even platforms can increase their revenue, increase their audience, sales, and don't spend a lot on infrastructure stuff. So Xsolla started 15 years ago, and we start with a simple idea that so we were focusing on online games at that time, mostly PC, like browser and client base, and these games were one of the first games which started to operate globally, and they had audience around the globe from South America to Southeastern Asia, from Russia to Africa. And our idea was like, if we bring different payment methods from different territories around the globe and unify them under one API with same reconciliation rules, basically, like you don't need to chase local payment options and ask them to do a payout. It will all come through a similar interface, and we'll be responsible for that. That would be a helpful tool for massive multiplayer online games. And from that, we developed into what we are right now. We moved into creating complex products and solutions to acquire users, to manage them, to do everything which is connected to transaction-based things like subscriptions, for example, managing subscriptions. And just one example, it's quite a complex thing if we're talking about anything which needs to be developed. So you can do it on your own, and a lot of larger publishers and platforms are doing that. Or you can use companies like us to use software as a service tools. And the idea then, so we moved into that space. That's our founder. He's a gamer, and he thought that the more game developers we can make successful, the more games will be out there for gamers to play. And we win only if game developers win. So that's our business model as well. So, and the idea on the business engine is when you're thinking of like, hey, I got a game engine which with a render, with the editor, and everything you need to create the game. we said, like we describe our products and solutions as business engine as these are the tools you need to operate.
Yeah, because it's funny. I read on the website Xsolla is the video game business engine. I had to read it 2 times, but it's like, okay, they have an engine. Oh no, the business engine. So actually, you're fueling up the game industry. And then I saw some global clients, and that's quite a list. Twitch, Steam, PUBG, Epic, Roblox, Ubisoft, Atari, Nexon. I mean, that sounds like a powerhouse to me. And I still sometimes hear like Xsolla. Yeah, I've heard about it, but it's a large company. I mean, how many people are working there? More than 200, 300 something?
It's more. It's below 300. It's more than 200 right now. So, and this, I thought that while I was describing it, I just figured out I was using mostly like buzzwords and not went into the details. And for
No.
Hard to understand that without going to our website. Probably, I'm just if I can give you examples of what the tools are.
That it is.
Be easier to understand.
It's a gaming audience.
What we do.
So yeah, go into it. I love it.
Okay. Yeah. So one example is like, you as a developer can develop your own custom launcher and use it to control your audience. Even when you launch your game on Steam, you still probably want to know who are your users. You want to retarget them. You want to talk to them directly and not ask Valve to do a remarketing campaign. In this case, like larger companies, take to Ubisoft, they have their own. Ubisoft even have their own platform, right? And others are creating their own launchers for the games, and that's what we do as well. So we provide Xsolla Launcher is a solution to launch, update, operate the game, talk to the consumers, talk to the users directly, and to upsell actually to other products which you have as a developer or publisher. Same are other tools like Login, which is focused on user segmentation and keeping in compliance with all the regulatory issues. For example, if you need to do a special check on the user age in South Korea and limit the screen time, it can be done for Xsolla Login. We don't need to do it separately country by country. Same with like in-game store, which is synchronizing between all different platforms and is a single source of truth of player inventory. And some things, it's actually funny. So some of the products which we launched were, for me, for example, when we were in development, I was thinking of why we even do that. And when it was launched, I just discovered that there is a. So I was wrong. Their business line which did that was right, and they did the research right, and it's something which is valuable, and people are using it a lot. And one of the examples of such tools is Site Builder, and it's like it sounds as it's a site builder. It allows you to really create it's like to create really faster storefront page with an ad. If you want to sell directly, you can add these tools. If you want to work, for example, provide the tools to influencers and to allow them to run like promotion campaigns and do the attribution, so you can do revenue share. You can also set up there. And I thought that there's a lot of tools like that on this web, right? So from Wix to Shopify, you can create your own website really fast. But essentially, and looks like it's all goes to the question of core competency. So as a game developer, you probably have C++ or C# engineers. You have people you have artists, right? So you have designers, but you probably don't have front-end engineers because you don't actually need them. So that's why, this tool just became really
That's funny
successful.
because when I look at it, it's from origin a game developer, and then I looked at what you're offering in monetization and launch. You call it a pay system, all payments there, a push system, reach more users. I see also, did I see it? Yeah, partner network, user acquisition. You see anti-fraud, which is definitely an issue in the industry. So all these things together, and then you have the launch. When you just said the site builder is there, a single secure sign-on. It's like all these things that Xsolla has gone through since 2005 came together, and that made it that, well, you consider yourself, and a lot of developers do think so, the business engine for the game industry.
That's correct, yeah. And we try not to describe ourselves as a platform. And I know that a lot of people are using that word. We're not a platform, so mostly because platform generally requires you to use either you cannot use, let's say, you cannot use the parts of the platform separately. So you cannot just take something for, let's say, matchmaking and ignore everything else. So in our case, whatever we develop, it's more like blocks. They talk to each other, so they're connected, but it's not a platform. You can from a like a la carte menu, you can select whatever products or solutions you need, and that's what larger publishers are doing. So they don't use all of the tools which Xsolla provide. They just select what we do better than them. And if it's more valuable, for smaller, mid-sized developers and small developers, they can get and they can use almost everything. And by doing that, they would have the same experience as larger publishers do. So essentially, we're providing, I would say, publishing as a service. It's a bit strange description, but we are giving the tools which allow developers to be self.
Yeah, because I also saw that you have a sort of you have a page. The Xsolla Business Engine is your hub within the Xsolla publisher account, and then you can actually say, I find it very cool, the stage. Well, I click, for example, on the pre-launch, the monetization, premium, microtransactions or subscriptions. So microtransactions, for example, and then the platform, let's say mobile, and then I see under directly the things you offer, like a seamless store API, the Unreal Engine SDK, enter new territories. Actually, it's pretty cool because all these segments have the get started, so you can learn more, and then you can get started, and so it's really the onboarding also into the publisher account goes like really smooth. It's basically you define what you are, where you're at with your game, and then you can see what Xsolla has to offer.
Thank you. I mean, it's really cool what you said. Take a look at how it looks like, how it works right now. So we were updating the flows.
That's awesome. I like this a lot. Because normally you have to read it and you get a PDF and it's like, what is it exactly that I need? You need an account executive, and then you need to make an appointment. But I always say there are lots of people, and small companies, some guys, girls, whatever, sitting in not in one room these days, but let's say they have a small office and on Saturday they're doing some extra work and they think 11:45, it's almost midnight, we want to publish, we want to do something, and you're going online and you need to find something. And if you would actually come to your site, it's awesome because I can actually say, okay, what I just said, it's pre-launch, microtransaction, mobile, and then I see exactly what I need and I can get started. I don't need you as a team. Once I'm in and then I need specific questions or someone will contact me. But it's I haven't seen that yet. Well, now I do.
Thank you. We work hard to launch that, and Business Engine was just announced and launched 2 weeks ago. We were planning to do it during GDC, but have to do it without GDC. Unfortunately, it's due to the events what's going on in the world. But what you'll be seeing in the future, you would get some so-called business engine cards. It's more like ideas and suggestions for you as a game developer. So giving you an example, you set up the pre-order page and start preparing the audience to its full release. And so next time you go to publisher account, or if you just download a business engine app on your phone, you would get a notification on and then saying, hey, think of adding that and these features, which would probably increase your sales by 20%. Or your localization, or like country distribution and localization is not optimal for that kind of a game. You probably need to add simplified Chinese, which will increase your sales by 20%, etc., etc. So that's what we're building right now, and we're also inviting partners because we're not. It's impossible to create everything. It's impossible to develop everything. So we are inviting partners to participate in that if the tools are complementary and can help developers. They also be featured in these business engine updates. And if you need localization, here you can have partners who are doing
and then,
et cetera, et cetera.
When this is all there, you guys decided to start a fund. A fund needs money, needs to invest. And so my question would be, how's the fund set up? Obviously, you're in charge, and would you then invest in the people that sign up with you? Because I guess you can sort of see how they're doing, what they're doing.
That was an original idea. So it's the first idea came a while ago, and we were looking at how industries, entertainment industry was underserved with venture capital, and one of the issues we figure out was that it's mostly because everyone, not everyone, but classic VC is doing it the way they used to. They do it for private equity with. So when you invest in a company, when you're waiting for the next round, you'll invest more in the next round, and basically waiting for liquidity event for someone to buy your investment, buy a developer, or a developer goes public and you got an IPO and everyone is happy. And that happens rarely. So especially if it's a startup, and I've seen a lot of cases like the companies which were approaching us, and they are run by veterans sometimes, but it's still the first game they're developing right now. And so when you're like casually asking about the source of finance, it's almost always friends and family and some angel money. And so the interesting thing about that, a lot of that friend and family finance is done through safe notes, so promissory warrants of a future equity. And this is something which is always bothering, saying like, hey, safe event happens only if, liquidity event happens only if the next round has happened. So if someone is investing on round A or round B, or if someone is buying your company, but otherwise you're just having a future equity promise warrant, and that's it. You cannot get a revenue share under normal circumstances. So what happens with your investment in that new video game company? There is a chance, of course, that they would develop something super popular and they will be bought by someone. But in the majority of cases, even if it's a successful game and if they earn money, there would be no buyer. It's not. It's different from equity finance. It's different from classical startups. That's one of the reasons why traditional VCs were staying away from video games. They invested from time to time, and everyone knows the success of like companies like Riot Games and even recent like Phoenix Labs with Dauntless. So they were heavily VC baked, but it's still an exception. So we thought at that time, well, if we structure the deal same way as publishers do, so it will be project-based finance. And project-based finance is well known in VC industry, but more like private equity and venture capital industry. But that it was mostly for like, I don't know, natural resources like oil, or maybe entertainment in a different way, like movies. No one really at that time invested in this way into video games. We thought it would be something nice. It looks like it's not just us who thought that way. So there are more and more funds opening right now who are following the same model. So like project-based finance, sometimes with equity option, but first of all, they want to get us part of the top line revenue. And in this way, they're not different from publishers sometimes, but
a publisher will sometimes give some money to finish the product, because a lot of times developers knock on the door of the publisher. We came so far, and it's all looking good, and and we need X, Y, Z in terms of money, and then the publisher might say, okay, we're helping you to finalize the product, but also with some insights and to optimize, and then we're publishing, and then we can recoup. But then in your case, it would mean you're not recouping, but you could actually say, okay, this looks really good. You're working towards the second game. Now we might actually talk equity in the company.
That's right. Or we can just say like, it's just project-based finance. So we're financing this game. If we think that the game developer doesn't actually need a publisher and can do it on their own, right? So in this case, and it's not a case with a lot of developers. Sometimes it's really hard to set up a publishing infrastructure, even if you're a successful game developer. So for talking about the fund, we are not the only general. It's set in a classic way. So we're not the only general partner there. We're just one of three. Second one is the fund is called Joystick Ventures, and second partner is a general partner from investment firm called Mountain Ascom. And they had a fund, Altered Ventures, specializing in video games. We joined the forces with them, so we're together. The third partner is not announced yet, but it will be announced soon. And the fund is relatively small, so we investment are just up to 1 million, and we have a comfort zone as around 500,000. And at the same time, while building the fund, we came to AD and we created something which you heard about and probably talked with Justin Birnbaum already, which is called Xsolla Funding Club. And that's really interesting initiative. So while talking to different potential limited partners, either from family offices or other funds, we figure out that, of course, a lot of them don't do fund of other funds, so they don't invest into other people's funds, but everyone is eager to discuss co-investment opportunities and have some kind of a platform or tool to communicate, to collaborate, and to work together. And we came with the idea of a funding club, which is a simple matchmaking tool. So we see a lot of developers coming through our products and solutions. And before all these things with the stay-at-home happened, for example, last year, we were at 49 different trade shows. So it's almost one trade show per week. So we met a lot of game developers, and it's the same approach as we discussed earlier with the business engine. So when we just collect information and ask game developers, hey, are you looking for finance? Do you need money to finish your game or to launch your game? And what stage you are, and what platform you're developing for. And then we invite different investors, and we also have several publishers, but the majority of the investors are like seasonal investors who are either investing in video games only, or video games are just one of the verticals for them. And we ask investors as well what kind of games we're looking for, and then we just match make them. And like we do the simple evaluation of a game, so everything is in place, pitches there. There is if vertical slice is needed, it's present and it's playable. And then we just introduce game developers to investors, and the rest is up to them directly. We don't charge for them. It's a free tool for both sides. And our skin in the game is our venture fund. So if sometimes we can just approach same investors and saying, hey, we like that game, we want to co-invest. That's how that's how we get money from that. But this is an interesting idea. So like it all works back on the concept of helping developers to be successful. And as I mentioned before, if we win, we also win. That's how it was.
And then obviously the part where I thought like, hey, interesting, you guys now come with a carnival, not a party, but a virtual gaming industry event. Yeah.
It's almost like a party.
Did this come up actually because would it? No, actually, I think it came up because there is a sort of a lockdown and there are no events, and you guys wanted to do it online. But then the question comes up right away: is this maybe also something for the future that appears maybe offline, or?
Oh, maybe. Oh, wow. I would love it.
Yeah.
So
everyone has to dress up.
I'll tell you straight how it's happened, and how we came with the idea. I was actually the one who came with the idea of a carnival. So we were sitting a week before GDC was officially canceled. We were sitting together. Actually, it's funny. There was a call, so I don't think anyone was at the office at that time. So it was way before we all moved to Zoom. We were on Google Hangouts, and we were having a conference call discussing. We saw that a lot of companies, a lot of publishers and developers start announcing that they're not participating in the GDC. And we were supporting GDC unconditionally. So we didn't pull out, and we were expecting to participate in GDC if the event happens. So we always do, and we are supporting. Yesterday, last week, it was announced that GDC 2 in August would be digital only, as almost everyone expected. But hopefully, will be GDC in San Francisco and Moscone next year, and we will definitely be there. But at that time, we were looking in discussion like, hey, what should we do? Like, what should we do in offline during GDC, and talking about alternatives. What would happen if GDC is cancelled? So, and we started to brainstorming and thinking of what people really like about GDC. So we figure out that if GDC is cancelled and all our major trader shows are cancelled, there would be alternatives. So there would be online conferences, and you can do business through LinkedIn, right? So you can do the same matchmaking and meet people and discuss. So when we thought, what is fun about GDC? Why people go there? So obviously you got sessions and seminars. You got interesting people whom you want to hear. You got speakers and keynotes. This would all move to online. Now that's easy. It's not a big deal. But the actual thing you're missing is interaction, networking. So when you having fun during the show or after, so when you're drinking tea with your colleagues, that's or friends or just people who you met, right? So, under tea, I mean adult beverages and not only. So,
Whatever fluid.
Whatever people do, if they don't. Anyway, so we thought that this part is really hard to recreate. So all the conferences would go to straight business format, or it would be just you sitting in front of a computer and listening for people talking. And we early in the days we invest into the game which is called Your World, and it's an interesting project, more like an experiment. It's a virtual theme park. And it's built on top of Unreal Engine with it's really complex editor to create your own theme parks and adding different gameplay mechanics. So we thought, okay, and this game is like it's not released yet. It's in pre-alpha stage. But we talked to the developers and saying, hey, what if we create a conference there? And the game was initially created to build theme parks and different worlds. It's more like a platform to create our type of games there. So the idea of Carnival came up naturally. So if you're creating a conference in a virtual world, why it should be boring conference with same halls and everything? It might be something which is completely different. Think what would happen if game developers came to some kind of global industry event, which happens during a summer carnival, and with all the rides and go-karting and carnival games, and basically came to a fairground, right? And it clicked like, wow, well, so we can bring fun into that. So it's not just about developers. We wanted to help them to build sustainable game business, right? And that sustainable game business includes us networking and meeting the right people. But what we want to do this in a fun environment, and that's how it's all clicked together.
Yeah. And it has gone well, because what I understood from you before we started to record, it's full.
Yep, we have 72 exhibitors right now, and the list for attendees, we stopped accepting new attendees, and mostly because it's still an experiment. So we'll see, and we'll learn there will definitely be mistakes, and we'll learn these mistakes and figure out what to do next. We are planning next carnival, which would happen with the support of our Korean office. It will be run as we'll be focusing on Korean, Chinese, Japanese, and Southeastern Asian markets. So we'll see and it would be different in a way of how this event is going. So we will be probably adding things like speakers and ability to have a sessions where not just networking and meetings, but we're still figuring out what this event is about and how we can build on top of that. The interesting thing is that after the announcement, basically during the first day of announcement, we start looking into the people who registered as exhibitors and as attendees, and so many familiar faces from event industry. So I would prefer not to name them, but think of as large global worldwide events and festivals, not in gaming actually. It's like in our completely different verticals. And people who are event managers who are responsible for these events, they either reached us directly and start talking, or they registered as attendees to see what we're doing. And it looks like everyone in the event industry, and we talked with several large organizers, both in Europe and US. They're looking for a way how to change that. And you've seen what was happening in Fortnite, and it's something which is, the reality is changing in a way. So probably the event industry would change. So yeah.
And a good thing, I saw that 100% of the proceeds go towards indie developers that had losses, financial burdens because of conferences that got cancelled.
That's correct, but it's like the event is free anyway for exhibitors and for attendees. The Game Developer Carnival is free, so anyone, we just suggested that if you want to donate, here you can do it. You will get a early access for your vault when it will be released as a complimentary, but all the proceedings will go to the fund which was created not by us but by our friends and colleagues right after GDC was cancelled. So for a lot of smaller game developers, they were unable to get refunds, and they already spent a fortune on buying tickets and trying to look for cheaper hotels and not booking them, booking them on non-refundable tariffs, and it's a sad situation. And
nice that you guys are actually matching it also, because it's a GDC relief fund pack.
Yep.
And so people can donate. I think it's $20 or something, and then Xsolla is actually matching 100%, which is awesome.
Yep, it's something which, as I said, we can give back to the community and to people who are supporting that. And if you check with GDC relief fund, so they would there are more than 100 participants there, so who are donating to help indie game developers to get their expenses back. And current situation is also hard if you're focusing on funding a publisher or talking to the press during one of the larger industry events, and there are no events at all right now.
Coming to the last question, and it's something what is in the news lately a lot: streaming, esports. Obviously, esports events cancelled, so that's the dip in revenues for esports. But what are you guys doing with esports? I saw actually a title coming by with someone within the company that was saying esports. Is that on your radar? Is that something? Is that going to be a topic for you guys?
We have several tools, so I would say several solutions for companies who are in esport business. For example, we setting up subscriptions for game for teams. So for the owners of their esport teams, so they can create packages for the users, for their fans, and so they can get a premium subscription and get something valuable every month from the team they're following up. And we have our products and solutions which are focusing on esport, and we have historically we're working with Twitch, and it's not directly, but that the Twitch is while building, it's a bit different story, but I don't know if you noticed recently that a lot of DJs, for example, are using Twitch nowadays because it's more reliable than, let's say, Facebook Live. So they started to use the tools which were already there and which were created for massive broadcasting. And it appears that during this stay-at-home and lockdown, that everything which was created for gaming with things like esport in mind, it's some kind future-proof for our type of entertainment industry. So this is fascinating. So that's why it's not answering your question directly, but just moving to a different topic because I thought about that. But it's something which will definitely be changing in the future. So we would see probably that these tools would be adopted by a lot of other companies in different businesses. I'm imagining that you've seen the results, and it's a big talking point here in Los Angeles right now about the first 3 weeks of video on demand sales of Trolls World Tour movie by Universal, and you probably heard about how.
100 million or something plus.
And the cinema chains, two largest cinema chains, are trying to oppose them and to say that they would be, if the Universal would continue it in the future, they would be ignoring Universal releases. So, and it's it's not that hard to imagine that you would, instead of creating your own infrastructure, you would use someone else's infrastructure, like streaming a new TV show through Twitch, in the same way as Epic did Astronomical with Travis Scott, right? So games are helping our industries to succeed, and we're helping to be there. We are happy to be there and to stay the side and to support.
Yeah, so in any case, if any company that right now you're helping with publishing moves into esports, most likely you might have tools available anyways for them to be successful.
Yeah, that's correct. And so we're also esports. It's really large topic to discuss. I think it would be just a separate one or several talking shows about that. But it is something like you can be really positive about that, or you can be skeptical about esports in a current state. But everyone would agree, even the people who are strongly opposed all the hype about esport would agree that, well, at some point in the future, this would be a bigger than regular sport. And we don't know what kind of sport it would be. I've seen many very interesting startups focusing on the future of sport with having esport in mind. So we don't know what would be and how we will be watching in 50 years from now. But I'm pretty sure that in 10 years from now, esport will be bigger than it is today. And you mentioned that events are canceled. That's true. But at the same time, it just proves that currently esport is trying to follow the same way, the same approach as traditional sport, because esport should be the one which would say, hey, and we are ready for stay at home. We are ready for online events. We are ready for virtual events more than anyone else. So it's we'll see how. I mean, I'm sure like the situation is what's going on right now in the world is really terrible, but this would not help, but it would give suggestions. It would give new ideas, and we would see a lot of startups and new products and basically new things coming out of that in the future.
Cool. Well, it was really insightful getting a sense of the company Xsolla and what you guys are offering, and I think it's definitely interesting for people to check it out. I will have the links in my blog, so people can actually see the publisher accounts, how you can actually open the account, but also the solutions that we were talking about. The very nice one that I think that you can get started. Just select the details and describe your game, and off you go. I find it still very, I find it really cool. Thank you very much for taking the time to explain me about all of this, and keep me posted on how it went with the carnival.
Absolutely, yeah. And we will be we won't be broadcasting it in full because it's quite. I mean, it's not event to broadcast, but we will be using our Twitch channel to show something like how it starts and what's going on there. So feel free to, if you're not an attendee or exhibitor, feel free to follow. Yeah, and I'll definitely update on what we learned from that and what we'll be doing in the future. Thank you for inviting. And message to everyone: please stay safe and healthy, and we are in the video games, we're helping people to get through these hard times. So
it's really nice you ended on the same message like Kate Edwards did. That interview I have broadcasted on Sunday, and she also said one message, and she said no, it's not even broadcasted yet, and she also said we need to help each other, and now you say exactly the same, and I love that.
It's obvious we need, and I haven't heard. I would love to hear his broadcast. I say hello next time you see her.
Yeah, I will. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.
You too. Thank you. Bye.
So that was all for today. Episode 24 on May the 6th. Thank you, Jacob from Nordic Game. Chris with Chris Read Things about esports. We had Hendrik talking about the European Games BizDev Gathering, which is, if I say it right, the May the 13th and the 14th. Ian Scarf, thank you for updating about potential investments or grants / loans for gaming companies. And Dmitry, really good to get to know more about Xsolla. Awesome stuff. Anyways, everything is in the blog or in the description. If you would like to know more, you can always send me an email. It's reinouddebrake@gmail.com. Also on LinkedIn, and otherwise go to my site, podcastgameconsultant.com. Thanks, guys, and as I always end it, ciao for now.
This was all for today. Thanks so much for listening to Game Consultant. Tune in next week for a brand new episode. And remember, do share this podcast with other members of the games industry.